How have been this week so far?
What a fascinating week this has been. Of course, we do this every week, and it's always a distinct pleasure to see you and recap what's going on. Right now, this week has been very interesting, of course. A little bit scary because there has been a looming debt ceiling fight. Not that it's happening right now, although technically the United States has crossed the threshold for $31.4 billion national debt to be approved on Thursday, and it needs to be reapproved by Congress. And the House Republicans threaten to use that as a tool, a lever, to extract from President Biden here at the White House concessions. Most notably, they want to make cuts in Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Some of the radical Republicans also even want to cut the military at a time where the world is particularly dangerous.
Yeah, but the U.S. is spending a lot in Ukraine. Last night, they announced $2.5 billion of another aid to Ukraine, military aid, totaling to $27.4 billion so far. But tell us, what do you think is going to happen of debt ceiling? Are the Republicans going to increase the debt ceiling or is going to be shut down?
Senator Mitch McConnell, Republican from Kentucky, Senate Minority Leader, stated that the debt ceiling has to be approved. There is the raise in the debt ceiling has to be approved. There's no way around this. And he represents, unfortunately, as we know, the governing side of the Republican Party. Then you've got the radical side that is less interested in governing, more interested in social media, fundraising through crazy stunts. And of course, arguing with the debt ceiling is a crazy stunt. And it actually gets to another point, and that is it may even jeopardize or violate the 14th Amendment, which has in it a provision in Article 4 of the 14th Amendment that the United States may not do anything but pay its debts.
The White House has said there will be no conditions attached on the negotiations. The House Speaker is saying there would be conditions, right? So what's the way out to it? What's the way out you visualize for it?
I think President Biden is right on this. He's proven when he was vice president and President Obama had this same type of argument with Speaker Boehner. Harry Reid, who had been a boxer in his earlier life, had said, no, you've got to fight back, you've got to punch. And he said the only way to fight this is not to negotiate. Say, look, there are many things we can negotiate, many things we can talk about, but the debt is inviolate. You cannot risk. It's not negotiable. You cannot risk the good faith and credit of the United States of America. And Harry Reid proved to be right. I mean, he went to President Obama and said, do not negotiate on this. And John Boehner finally backed away.
As we head over the weekend, let's see what happens in the U.S. over the next few days on the debt ceiling. What's the other news for the week?
Well, right now we have the March for Life in Washington. Later on Sunday, there's going to be a pro-choice rally, and there's these competing interests. Right now, the anti-abortion movement should be able to celebrate. After all, they won this enormous victory with the Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health over that overturned Roe versus Wade. But it's not that simple. What has happened in the midterms is, especially in swing states such as Minnesota and in swing states, we saw that Republicans didn't do as well as expected, almost solely due to independent voters voting and saying, no, we want the right to be able to choose for ourselves.
You have been keeping a close watch on these two movements. Do you have any idea how many people are going to turn on in the city from the various parts of the country for these two different rallies? And tell us for the rest of the world, because we have some global audience as well, why this is so important for the US politics.
It's important in many different ways. Not only is it important, of course, for domestic policy, but it's also important for world policy. This also affects how funding goes to the rest of the world. There are certain, for instance, there are certain provisions such as the Hyde Amendment, where the United States government is not allowed to support anything that might go toward abortion in the rest of the world. So it is very important that the United States settle this, figure out what to do. Within the anti-abortion movement, there are two tracks. One is the track that really used to be predominant, which was to ban abortion except in the case of the life of the mother or rape or incest. But now there is a more hardcore set of movement that's taking hold that says no, abortion should be banned no matter what, even if the woman's life is at risk. And the problem is that Republicans, politicians who want to get elected, are saying, wait a minute, swing voters, independent voters, do not support that position, and we need them. The independent bloc of voters represent a larger contingent than either Democrats or Republicans, respectively. So it is critical for both Democrats and Republicans to attract the independent voter.
Now, before the Christmas vacation, President had said he will take a decision on if he's going to run in 2024, yes or no. We haven't heard anything. Have you heard anything from him?
We did hear from James Clyburn, who is Biden's whisperer almost, that he said, President Biden will run for re-election. The thing is that he is more likely to run for re-election if Donald Trump is running for the Republican nomination, because President Biden's mission, his overarching mission, is defending democracy. And he feels that former President Trump is a threat to that.
But Trump has already announced he's running in 2024, right?
That's why Representative Clyburn says...
Have any doubt?
I have had doubts. I have actually thought he wasn't going to run. I thought, look, he's done a lot. He's been a very successful president, even the first few years, except for the withdrawal of troops from Afghanistan, which was truly chaotic. Most of his initiatives have been fantastic. They've been, he has lowered the child poverty rate. He has increased jobs. He has combated COVID. Now we're seeing inflation decrease. It's down below what it was in October of last year. We're seeing it even go further down. So, I mean, he's got a lot to run on. Of course, he is embroiled with this document issue right now, where he had thought that by staying mum and just working with the Department of Justice, that this whole thing would be solved. But unfortunately, you're dealing with perceptions, not just reality. While it is a fact that he did, or his lawyers did, go to the Justice Department and say, hey, look, we found these documents, and turned them over. His would-be opponent, which was former President Trump, stonewalled for over a year, and it took the Department of Justice to call the FBI and say, listen, we need those back. The FBI had to go and conduct a search to get over 300 classified documents.
Well, we hope that President Biden takes a call on his 2024 runs pretty soon. That will put us on the ground fast. But what else is happening here? I think right now the president is meeting several mayors from across the country to discuss how much progress has been made, what are the issues affecting the local governance. right?
Right. And of course, the infrastructure bill, which was one of President Biden's signature achievements, is affecting cities. Broken bridges throughout the United States. Over 66% of bridges were in dire need of repair at this point. And so he has a lot to discuss with America's mayors.
Great. Anything else you want to say?
Well, this is going to be a very interesting year. One other thing I do want to say, which is about the America's mayors, is that one of the elements of the infrastructure bill is to improve water because there had been leaded pipes traditionally. Of course, the word plumbing comes from the Latin for lead, and so lead was a traditional source of material for making pipes. As we know, it leads to lead poisoning. It's very dangerous. So all those pipes are going to be replaced with the new infrastructure bill. So that's a big, big deal in poor communities. And of course, part of infrastructure is to improve Wi-Fi access, which is another big deal. So there's so much to look forward to in this new year. And I do believe, I think most politicos believe, that this debt ceiling will be solved before June, when the Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says that no matter what her extraordinary measures are, there's nothing more she would be able to do after June.
I think we are all done for the day for this week. But tell me, what are you going to do this weekend?
Rest. Take a...
You also take rest.
All right.
Don't watch too much of news.
What a pleasure. You bet. Take care.